So in terms of self-custody there has been traditionally an exchange like Coinbase, software wallet, which I don't particularly trust, a hardware wallet, and multi-sig. We're now starting to see new ideas that kind of plug in the gaps here. There's like a range of options now.
Correct.
And most people do go based on trust. They will look to Matt and say, what do you think? What do you trust? They'll look to me and they say, what do you trust? And it's, where is the trust in these things? In terms of this idea, it's a different one. And you've been following what's happening on Twitter. What do you think are the real concerns, and what is the actual stuff that is nonsense, is nothing burger?
So it goes back to this, right? I mean, I make a device that's like, it takes certain kinds of trade-offs, right? We don't have a ledger live. You can't. There's no shitcoins. It's very specific. No, really, right? I mean, there's no shitcoins. But it's funny because it changes how a device is made, right? So, for example, we have less code to review because we're not supporting all the shitcoin stuff. We can do things the Bitcoin way. Right. So, for example, we don't need Shamir. We can use the Bitcoin way of doing that, right? Because Shamir is sort of coin agnostic, let's put it this way, right? So with the shitcoins, you add a certain kind of trade-offs and attack surface, right? With when now you have this fully closed source, so now you have this trust thing. That's the trade-off, right? They have a certification that for some people is a good thing. They want that. Many enterprise can only get a wallet that has a certification. They don't want a cold card. And that works. But I think what's important here is for us to sort of like, I think this was the big mistake that you guys did marketing-wise. Like, this is not a product for like half of your user base that got super pissed because they don't want even that API there. So maybe if you split the firmware and you have a firmware that has that, a firmware that doesn't have there.
Could you have done a specific device that would only have been this, like a nano ledger?
I'll come back
whatever.
to okay. So I'll give you the answer and actually I'll make an announcement.
Oh, okay. Here we go. We got an exclusive.
I'm learning how to sell here.
Where did Charles send this to me? So when it comes to, first, this is not our first rodeo. So every time that Ledger brought a new feature to market, every time we have this happening. So I don't know if you guys remember Bluetooth with the Nano X.
Yep.
Oh my God, that triggers so many discussions. Like, Bluetooth is a new threat, a new attack vector, a new threat, etc. Nothing happened. Okay, Nano X was 2018. There is no hack on the Ledger through that Bluetooth feature.
That like that's how it works. Like we just don't know.
No. But then when this happens, because like if you get hacked, usually hackers.
We would know.
We would know.
It would be public.
It would be public. You would have hacked it.
No, you don't know. Like,
you would have
criminals may be using the device.
No. You always end up with a responsible disclosure, etc. The victims will call us and be like, "Hey guys, all my funds are being wiped out." If it's an easy attack, then suddenly you have tens of thousands of users with funds wiped out. So, but you see, we shouldn't say things like you don't know. Like, yes, we know. And until you can prove me that otherwise, then we know that there was no attack. Because otherwise you make it sound like, oh, it's always possible. And so you insert like sort of fear into people when actually for 99.99999% of the cases, it actually works. And the thing with security is it works today. The question is it going to work tomorrow? There are new attackers, there's new ways to attack, etc., which is why security is an always evolving technology, right? Like, the technology that you have in your Nano X today is not similar to what you had in your Nano X 3 years ago, because we are constantly trying to make it, harder to break and more secure. And so we had the same thing with what you described, like, let's do it Bitcoin only because it's more secure. If you add shitcoins, it's another surface attack. Okay, also that's not true. I mean, we've never been hacked because there are shitcoins in shitcoins.
But you make different design decisions.
Like Shamir's is just to back up shitcoins. Like otherwise you could just use native multi-sig.
No, but that's okay. But that's fair. Like, it's fair that you make.
It's a trade-off.
It's a trade-off. However, if you look at the way that we support Bitcoin with Ledger, with Miniscript, I mean, we support Miniscript, Taproot, etc., etc. I mean, we have very good support for Bitcoin today. Probably one of the best, maybe as good as you. But then what I want to say is like all these features that are hardcore features are not used. Okay, Nobody uses them. So
your customers don't.
No. Well, but we have, okay, so who's complaining on Twitter? Because I keep on hearing like the community that uses, the hardcore Bitcoin guys, etc. They do use Trezor. Like we have users that are probably, not as sophisticated as yours, but they're quite sophisticated. When we bring these features, like, they don't use it. And by the way, you can see there is maybe two markets. If your users are more sophisticated than ours, which is what you're saying, okay, but then this is the product for them.
Absolutely. Like I see you guys as my funnel. Like it's always been like this.
And I'm fine with. And you know what? I'm fine with that because I think that this is a
I'm the same for Matt. I'm his funnel.
No, seriously. Like because I see this happens to me, right? Like users either grow out of shitcoins or they want to start doing things and they have a bigger pile of Bitcoin. They'll come to us and say, "Hey, I used to have a ledger. I want to now like as the solution that I can verify myself and all this stuff." It's like, great. Where do I put my shitcoin? I'm like, I can't help you. Stay with Ledger for that.
And so you see, I mean, for me, the beauty of self-custody is that in the end, you're free. So, when people are complaining about Ledger and think, okay, customer is king. So people should complain. Okay. And it's no problem. We're here for that. So I just want to make that very clear. Customer is king. And so whatever customers say, sort of goes. We have to understand what they're saying and then try to sort of do better education, better communication, etc. And when we fuck up, which is what we did when we leaked the data, we fucking apologize. Yeah. We say nothing and we try to fix the problem. Like we're not saying, oh, we don't care. Of course we care. Like, we care actually very deeply. But the problem that is at stake right now, and this is why, we should keep our eyes on what is the most important for the industry. What is the most important for the industry is to get 100 million users that are already in the space into the safety of self-custody. Whether it's your product, my product, extra, is better than what they do today. It's 10, 20x better than what they do today. We're talking about like the possibilities of Ledger being less secure when actually most users are using products that are super unsecure. And so I think the debate should be how we move these guys to us. And this is with these kind of features that you can actually move the bigger number to self-custody, because it's not true that 100 million, 200 million, 300 million people would trust themselves with the 24 words in the product keys.
Are you concerned about centralizing this amount of users with KYC data and the fact that the possible collusion, not again, it's just like technical possible collusion. Is it a concern to you that now you have this big pile of like...
It's a honeypot. That's what you're saying.
Essentially, you have a honeypot for privacy and for state actors to start sending you more letters, because that's going to cost legally too.
It's not. Look, I don't think it's a real concern, and I tell you why. Most users, 97% of users, bought their coins on an exchange.
Yeah.
Okay.
Binance.
Most users at some point had to do a KYC linked to their coins and their private public address, whatever. And so actually, Bitcoin is not really good for people that want to hide necessarily. It's sure, it's anonymous, but it's traceable. And if I can trace you back to the exchange when you bought the coins, I mean, any government agency can subpoena any exchange where you bought the coins to say, I want to know who's that guy, and I can trace all his movement funds after he bought Bitcoin in the exchange, and he send them on CoinKite or your wallet, for example. So actually, I don't think it's already the case. 400 million users, or a subset of that, at least a good subset of that, have already KYC themselves and attached their identity to their Bitcoin life. 99%. I mean, the large majority of the population is doing KYC every day for every other service that they use in their current life. So I think for the majority, it is not a real issue.
Do you think ideologically that's like not a great thing?
No, but I think, again, we always go back to trade-off. First of all, you don't have to do it. So
no, absolutely.
Absolutely
it's a
free.
Choice.
It's a choice. Now, if you feel that you have to do it because, yes, you have to share certain things, but then you know that you're guaranteed to see your 24 hours back, and then you're not solely responsible for them, it's a good trade-off. It's a good service. And again, the beauty of this, like we were never in the idea that it would be for everyone, but and customers online say, your customers don't want this. A lot of customers actually want it. A lot of future customers want it, and most of the people that say, I don't want to use a ledger are saying, because I don't trust myself with the 24 words. So actually, we're trying to solve one of the biggest pain points to onboard the next generation of users into self-custody, because you and I agree, and we all agree that self-custody is much safer than any other form of custody that you have in the market. And so, and
is this a better product than an exchange?
I think better and worse are not the best ways of putting this kinds of stuff. It's a different trade-off.
If you had those two options, if the two options in the market for you right now were as an exchange or this product, where would you use if they were your two options?
I would probably tell people to just pick a different product.
I'm just saying of these two options. I'm saying, is it an improvement?
But that's not the market, right? The market has other options.
Fair.
And again, they can use his product without this.
No, okay. So
So
what is the third option? What would you choose then?
Well, I mean, I prefer people putting on a phone wallet than to.
But haven't your
on the phone wallet?
Yeah, that you've hacked.
Like on a software wallet?
Yeah, I mean, if they have, like this kind of user will have like a couple $1,000s worth Bitcoin.
Okay, but is as good as gone if they put it on the phone? I don't know.
Not necessarily. No, I mean, like phone wallets are not amazing. No, are they like? Do they have also trade-offs? Yes.
But didn't
but they're not sharing their KYC information with yet another third party.
Well, KYC and then seed theft are two different things. They're two different.
Now, I'm talking about seed extraction. If you run a software wallet on your phone, okay, seed extraction is super easy. So actually, whether you have $50, $1,000 or more, your money is as good as gone. Now you say it's no KYC. Okay, but that's a different problem. Okay, the problem number one is seed extraction. Okay, and now you cannot tell users that actually you believe that a software wallet on the phone
I don't know.
is a better trade-off.
I feel like KYC risk of like KYC data being leaked is more expensive and worse than losing $2,000 on my phone.
I as a more normal
it's just a
person,
trade-off. I'm
going to say something that's going to piss Matt off. I think it doesn't matter what you do or what you say. I think KYC is something that people have become completely used to in the world and accepting of, and trying to get them away from that is very difficult. Getting them to really care about it is really,
but that's
hard.
why our duty is to come up with better, smarter things that are hopefully easy, that don't use KYC. Like, for example, you guys don't need KYC. You could just give the user some other password or something else that they have to just remember.
But that's you've created the same problem. It's a password they have to remember.
No, but it's not 24 words anymore.
No, look, we thought hard about that problem. Actually, KYC is the only way that you can retrieve your shards. But okay, but again, I think we have to be very precise when we say things, because now you make it sound like, it's very easy for anyone to subpoena. It's actually a very hard process. By the way, the different entities that keep the different shards are in 3 different jurisdictions. So actually, if you're in a country and the French authorities say, okay, we have no real control over our partners to say you have to comply because they're in other jurisdictions.
Are they all EU?
No, there's EU, UK, and US.
Okay. Who keeps the picture of the driver's license?
Oh, this is on FIDO and Tessie. We have 2 partners that actually do that, but these guys do KYC for a living with the same people. I mean, the people that are going to use this product have probably done KYC with Onfido already for many other product or projects.
Isn't it? Sorry, go ahead. Isn't it? Sorry. Isn't it an issue now that you have the KYC plus the Bitcoin together, right? See, because just losing the KYC, it's a problem. It sucks, right? But you don't lose the Bitcoin. Now you have the KYC plus the coins.
So
by the same solution.
Look, when people are on Ethereum, they have these addresses like Pascal.eth, where if I click on it, I can see everything that you have. So
that's horrible.
But you know what I mean.
We've already opted out of that trade-off.
Yeah, okay.
Along with our Bitcoin centrism.
But again, look, if for you your privacy is of the utmost importance, please do not use that product for sure.
But I think when we think of like the topology of risks that's out there for us as users, me as user, what is Ledger's relationship like with the sharding companies that are providing that service? Because I think being able to it's helpful that they're in different jurisdictions, and that may protect a direct subpoena to those companies, but not necessarily protect from a direct subpoena to Ledger, where depending on the service relationship you have with those vendors, a direct subpoena to Ledger around those key access points. Like I've read too much terms of service, paperwork to not be terrified of what gets baked in to that boilerplate?
So first, these companies are not slave to Ledger. We just have a commercial agreement. But
exactly, but that's governed by the jurisdiction that you operate in, and then that's subject to the
no, but they're not slave to Ledger in the
them.
sense that it's not because Ledger is supposed to comply to something that comes to us that they have to do the same. They obey their own rules and regulation, own risk, etc. And so therefore,
and the contract that you've signed with them. So, for instance,
they don't have
Ledger,
to comply to anything if they feel that it's not in their jurisdiction, for example.
But would Ledger, for instance, be willing to open source the service agreements they have with the providers around those?
Oh yeah, I think that's perfectly fine. Again, on these things, again, like we're treating this as if this was a new problem. This is not a new problem. Most users that do crypto today have already done a KYC, and their identity is already linked to their crypto. So now we're trying to solve a real problem, which is what do you do with those 24 words, etc. And so again, it comes with trade-offs, etc. But we don't create a database that doesn't exist yet. Most people that would use that service have already KYC themselves with Coinbase, with Binance, with various exchanges.
The association between the keys and that database line item is new.
Not necessarily. Because if you actually not. Like if you KYC yourself with an exchange, then your public address and your KYC on the exchange are necessarily linked.
Of course, but what I'm saying is that great. So we've got the linkage point between my KYC information and Coinbase, and then I've now withdrawn from Coinbase.
And
right?
so your KYC still remains.
Absolutely, but what we don't have at that point is an association between a seizure point and Coinbase and my KYC. And so when I think about the exposure,
what do you mean by a seizure point?
If Coinbase gets subpoenaed and there is an asset forfeiture of some kind that gets enacted upon me, Coinbase has a potentially a legal obligation to send over those funds. So like imagine Ross Ulbricht is sitting with all of his Bitcoin on Coinbase, and then he gets no-knocked and now there is asset forfeiture as part of the legal proceedings around his crime.
But this cannot happen in our case.
Why?
Because you remain in charge of your funds. So it's not because you're encrypted and sharded your seed that suddenly people can do anything with it. So in the case of a subpoena to say, okay, we want that guy, and they come to us, usually when these things happen, like you're aware of it, and you still have your device. You can still have your 24 words with you, by the way. Like, this is not either or. You can keep your 24 words and encrypt them and shard them, or you can just destroy the 24 words and shard them.
Yep.
The best thing I think would be to keep the 24 words very safely somewhere and also shard them as a backup. But you can decide what's best for you actually. But we cannot freeze funds. You understand? We cannot freeze your funds.
So help me understand that, because I think this is, at least for me, is the critical piece to understand most clearly. The only way for me to get my let's say I lose it and I want to get my 24 words back. How does that work across the 3 vendors that you guys have contracted with to get my 24 words back?
Oh, so to get your 24 words back, you re-KYC yourself, you present your identity, and that triggers a cryptographic process that brings back the shards onto your device.
Great. So now the Department of Justice calls you and says, we are charging so-and-so with X, Y, and Z. Get 2 of your vendors to send us the Bitcoin keys.
Yeah, I mean...
You need all 3.
No, you need 2 or 3.
So
So you only need 2 people
They can ask us, and then we can ask our partners, and our partners can say no. So that's the first thing. And usually they ask, because I discussed this with my lawyers, like, what is realistic in that scenario? Because if we say it like that, we make it sound like it's very easy for any government to subpoena anyone for any reason, etc. It's not true. They can subpoena. It's not true.
So I was, Canada, lived there. We just had this insanity that happened during COVID, out of no fucking where.
And we ship devices, actually.
The country just decided.
Through Peter?
Yeah.
No, but seriously, the country just decided that, like, let's just suspend civil liberties here and freeze people's bank accounts and do whatever the fuck we want.
Yep.
So it does happen. Listen, I think...
But man, I'm okay with that. Like, I agree with you. Like, I don't disagree.
So
I'm not trying to be difficult, but I'm saying if I live in Canada... Okay, there is a fair concern that...
I know, and Macron and Trudeau love each other. So,
Look, I follow you here. So if you feel that's a real possibility, I would actually say do not use the product.
So wait, Peter, hold on. I
service.
just want to be because this is to me is the crux of it. Is like there's net new surface area. So you basically we're offboarding loss of key risk and onboarding state actor risk. Basically, that's the trade-off. And I think that's a very reasonable trade-off to have available to people. In many cases, that may work for them. It would not work for me, and that's okay. But I think like this, and when we sort of fall down the Twitter hellscape, which we all live in, that for me is like the biggest risk. Is like if we, and we're going to have this podcast out there, which is great, but being able to say, look, you're offboarding this risk, you're onboarding that risk. These are the sets of trade-offs that live here. We're never pushing the update to you. It's not getting baked into your next upgrades. Like so, being able to have sort of this more dynamic trade-off discussion, I think, is incredibly valuable. But secondarily, from a user's perspective, being able to be sort of clearly in control of what set of whether it's the OS or wherever that sits, being able to have a high degree of control around what OS is sitting next to my sign-in capabilities and knowing what that is. Because, I've updated my iPhone irresponsibly early when that new push comes. And so we've been conditioned.
Put YouTube music on your phone without asking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to me, that's where
that is a crime. Okay, look, I'm conscious of
Look, so
Pascal's.
I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I think this is fair, but this is a good discussion. It's like there are trade-offs. There are things that that you shouldn't do in certain situations. Other things that will make people more comfortable. I've got many friends that are in many cities, etc. And this is an easy trade-off for them because they don't think the government is going to come after them for many reasons, etc. And they say, look, at the 24 hours, I prefer if someone keep it for me in a safe way, etc. But only me has access. So you're right. It's a trade-off. Coming back to the story of Ledger, every time we bring a new feature, it creates this kind of dynamic, which I think is really good in a way. I mean, it sucks when it happens, and I prefer if we didn't do mistakes like we did, etc. in terms of communication. But in the end, whether there was a mistake in communication or not, like that conversation would have happened, and it would have been as good or bad, like in the sense that people would have had real concerns, and all these concerns are real. So it's our job to talk about it, educate, present the trade-offs, present the different products in the market. People were like, "Oh, Pascal, you're so arrogant." I'm like, "Well, I'm French." So what are you talking about? But also, I said, if you don't like what we're doing, please go to Trezor or to you. I mean, I'm fine with that too. To where?
No, his product's Cold Card.
Cold Card. But I said Trezor online. That was my tweet. People were like, "Oh well, he's telling us to go to Trezor." I'm like, actually, I want people to be free. And this is the power of self-custody. You can take your private keys and go to another product, another service if you feel more comfortable with it. And I think ultimately, this is what self-custody is, and this is why people are free versus, very difficult to move your funds from one exchange to the other, etc. They make it difficult. They want to trap you into a system where it's actually very easy to take a cold card and to enter your entropy into it. And voila, done with Ledger.